Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 646 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Adrian Wenban. And if you want to hear about the future of chiropractic in Spain, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I have Adrian Wenban coming on today, president of Barcelona College of Chiropractic. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for the opportunity, James.
Yeah, so before I jump into your story about how you got into chiropractic, I let everyone know our big why. Why do we do what we do as a podcast? And just to let everyone know, July 4th, Chiro Hustle turns 7. And, you know, we've been going at this quite some time, and you're episode 646. So I'm excited to have you on to bring some international flair to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. So our why do we do this? Freedom of speech. I think it's vital to everyone, and to have the ability to say what's on your mind and to be able to communicate on a platform that represents that. So Chiro Hustle represents freedom of speech. We know what it's like to be shadow banned and traffic throttled and censored. So we would never do that to anyone, including any of our guests. So that's a really cool thing that we offer to everyone. And we believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but if you're looking for that distinction and guidance in any of those directions, please reach out to a chiropractor. They will be vital to your future with medical freedom and family health freedom. We protect B.J. Palmer's Sacred Trust. If you don't know what that is, go to our show notes over in the episode, and you're going to find out more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And if you don't know who B.J. Palmer is, we have a lot of work to do. And that because the Sacred Trust are B.J. Palmer's last words. We support subluxation-based chiropractic. We believe that some of the schools globally are taking that out of the education. So if you're watching this and you know students, please share this with the students so they can understand the philosophy of chiropractic. We want to keep that alive and well in this beautiful profession. We do believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence and the educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that, Dr. Adrian, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, James. Again, great to be here.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of people know of Barcelona Chiropractic College, our College of Chiropractic. Tell us how you got to the point where that made sense for you to start as the president of the school.
Yeah, I think my role as president grew pretty naturally out of my role as a project manager. So it goes back to about 2003, I think. I had been in Spain for a few years at that time, having grown up in Australia, moved to the UK, worked as a chiropractor in Australia before going overseas, and then working for a few years up in the UK pre the development of the GCC. It would have been about 1999, I moved to Barcelona, Spain, and started practicing there while still doing and completing a master's in clinical epidemiology. That was being done by something unique at that time called distance learning, which was this innovative, novel idea of actually studying was it was clumsy and it was an awkward attempt to try to teach people at distance, given that there wasn't such a thing as the internet. But I managed to find my way to Spain. Spain was interesting. At the time, there were about 86 chiropractors in Spain, I believe, back in about 1998, 1999. No law that related to the profession, no educational institutions, just a handful of people umbrellaed by one national chiropractic association called the AEQ, with the objective of getting a law for chiropractic and developing university level education. By 2003, a few of us had realized that if either of those things were ever going to happen, it was going to be up to us. I think, BJ had something written on one of his walls, along with a whole lot of other stuff, that said, among the many, there are the few, and among the few, there is you. And I think that always resonated with me. It resonated with this small group, this small band of internationals who were chiropractors, but operating in a relatively not illegal, but certainly a legal environment. We stumbled upon the realization that in order for the profession to carve out a niche and actually exist in Spain, we were going to have to do some work. We were going to have to develop the profession. And that gave birth to the idea of starting the Barcelona College of Chiropractic. It was a rocky road. We had to raise the money ourselves, just a group of a dozen, maybe 15 of us, all chiropractors, all from different parts of the world. We came together in Spain with a common realization that we shared an education that was checkered as chiropractic students. And even though we'd each gone to different colleges in different parts of the world, the US, the UK, France, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, we shared many aspects of an education model which we felt didn't empower us to go out there and change the world. We felt that there wasn't a lot of philosophy in our respective programs. We got front-ended with philosophy with very little follow-through across the program of study. We were late to start to receive technique advice, and the programs were light on technique and urology. Very little in terms of management, very little in terms of practice management, health advocacy, learning how to collaborate out in the broader healthcare environment, in an environment that was largely being driven and owned by proponents of a model of healthcare, which really is a disease care model. If you look at where the majority of money goes, where the focus is, it's by every measure a disease care model with very little to do with health and health promotion. So we came together, I guess, arrogantly to some extent, thinking that maybe we could do something different. And out of that came the designing of a curriculum. We worked very hard to initially look at adapting curriculum from different parts of the world, from the UK, elsewhere in Europe. We communicated with other colleges in other parts of the world, New Zealand, with colleges in the US that you'll know. And we realized very quickly that we needed to start from the ground up. There were a lot in each of those different curriculums that were older and that had largely been adopted from a much more reductionistic, deterministic model of health that really was just shackling together bits and pieces of curriculum that were really much more orientated towards training people who were biomedical in focus, with very, very little interest in the broader aspects of a broader definition of health, much less interested in our area of interest, which was really looking at human adaptability and optimizing people's potential. So those were the drivers, if you like, that brought us together. Some disillusion with our own respective education experiences, and some desire to try to develop something that would more closely align with what we felt would empower students across the program of study to be able to integrate the fundamental philosophical constructs of chiropractic and to really spread that, share it, integrate it across the curriculum so that it would empower them to be able to think as chiropractors and make clinical decisions, make life decisions that were congruent that were aligned with those fundamental philosophical constructs.
So how long has the Barcelona College been found? When did it get founded, and how long has it been producing chiropractors?
Yeah, so really started for us back in about 2003. I found myself with the opportunity to be nominated and then elected onto the regional accrediting authority in this part of the world for chiropractic, what's called the European Council of Chiropractic Education. And my nomination and election onto that council was somewhat controversial. I was seen to be someone who had a certain bent, and it didn't always align, I think, with the vision and the ideas of the powers that be at the time, politically and in terms of education. However, I spent 4 years, 2003 to 7, as an elected general council member of the ECCE. Gave me an opportunity to learn a lot. And in 2005, so midway through that period, the opportunity arose. Defining opportunity, I guess, is where preparedness and opportunity run into each other, came together with the opportunity to get started with a project in Barcelona. At the time I was doing, I'd started my PhD, and through my contacts in the local university at Universitat Pompeu Fabra, we were able to start to make contacts, and they actually expressed interest in the idea of starting a university level College of Chiropractic.
Well, I think it's fascinating that, the vision and the mission and the desire all come together. And, by giving your time, you learned what was necessary. And by banding together your resources of connections, you started to figure out how to fund this thing. And now here we are, 2003 to 2024. And it's been amazing. And I've actually had a chance several years ago to come over and see the college and to meet you. And it's been a long time coming to have you on as a guest for our show and to speak about the international footprint of Barcelona and how this small college has made an impact and a ripple effect globally with the format that you guys have instilled and the tenets that you've instilled and being philosophically grounded and producing that type of practitioner to the open market, I think is massive, because as you've stated, there's been a reductionary model within other institutions that are almost forgetting the fact that chiropractic has a philosophy and forgetting the fact that it needs to be front loaded with that. Because if you want to have the principle of chiropractic long term, then we have to teach the young about why chiropractors do what they do and where it came from. If not, it's just going to become a medipractor arena, which, I see that happening. And that's why philosophically, that's why I ground our opener within, freedom of speech and medical freedom, but also subluxation, innate universal intelligence, and protecting the sacred trust, which any, blue-blooded, chiropractor would like throw their fist in the sky and say, yeah, that sounds amazing. I love that, and who wouldn't support that if you were in support of chiropractic? So I just want to acknowledge you for doing that and, being a torchbearer, but also an organizer and seeing where there was a path that needed to be blazed and being a part of that. And then saying, you know what, this makes sense. I want to be a part of this long term.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, as much as what we've tried to do here in Barcelona and other pockets around the world are doing, I think we're very late to the stage. And what I mean by that is I think we have before us, you don't have to look very hard or scratch the surface very, very hard over the last 5 or 10 years to see that we're in the midst of a multi-crisis. Society at this point in time, I think, is bearing the fruits and the lack thereof of a model, a worldview, if you like, that's predominated since the middle of the 17th century. And the fundamental constructs that underpin that worldview are, I think, bumping into their limits. We have a paradigm, if you like, a clockwork universe paradigm that says that each and every one of us is a separate individual, that we're here for a short period of time, that we're nothing special, and that we should do everything we can in this scarcity-dominated world to get everything we can at whatever cost it comes. And I think that if we take a closer look at our fundamental philosophical constructs, they stand diametrically opposed to the values that have got us to where we are in the middle of this multi-crisis. I think what's happening environmentally, I think what's happening in terms of health, society, our young people's health, mental health and well-being is really on the edge. And there are many, many indicators of that being the case. Here in my own country, survey results just recently here in Spain show that only 5.4% of teenagers meet healthy, active living guidelines today. And those healthy living guidelines relate to diet, sleep, and movement. Only 5.4. It means 94.5% of adolescents in this country, and I think it's pretty typical of other countries around the world. It's at a different point, but certainly it represents what's happening, I think, more on a global stage. We have a future that is very, very challenged as a species. And I think, again, many of the fundamental philosophical constructs that underpin chiropractic potentially shape and frame a model, a sustainable model of interaction and existence in this world that can provide for a sustainable existence for our species. And I don't think that's what we're looking at if this current model is allowed to continue to promulgate and continue to advance. We're really running into some sustainability issues. And it's that, I guess, that idea that the chiropractic story, these fundamental ideas, our belief in us all being connected, that the universe has an order to itself, this universal consciousness, intelligence imbibes everything around us, and that we have a part of that, a special part of that in each and every one of us that connects us, that shapes us, that allows us to adapt and to exist. And to go forward and disrespect that is at our own peril and at the peril of our species and other species on this planet.
Chiropractic is vital to the future of humanity. And I knew this 15 years ago when I started doing patient testimonials and I started talking to people about their experiences in the medical world. And they started telling me that they tried 7 other things. And then they finally got to the chiropractor. And why didn't anybody tell me about this sooner? That's like a common theme that I would hear a lot. Yeah. And now, after the work that I've been doing, interviewing chiropractors, but also going public facing and working with the community and bringing people into chiropractic clinics, I see that there's a huge disconnect between clarity with what people should be doing to keep themselves healthy. They just don't know chiropractic is their solution.
Yeah. James, your experience in hearing people ask why didn't they know about this is one that's rare, because you're talking to people who actually learn about chiropractic, even if it is retrospectively or late. The truth is, the majority of the people on this planet today, by far and away the majority, have never heard the word chiropractic, have no idea what a chiropractor is, and will never, if things continue as they are today, in their lifetime have the opportunity to receive a chiropractic adjustment, let alone have the opportunity to be role modeled and mentored by a chiropractor who understands those philosophical constructs and walks and breathes them. At the moment, we have a real dilemma on our hands in terms of education, in terms of chiropractic. There's what might be referred to in sociological terms as a gated Western community. And if you look at the West as it's defined by some people currently, it only makes up about 14% of the world's population. It generates about 72% of the gross domestic product in the world. So income, 70+% of it is generated within that gated community. It means that 86% of the world's population sits outside that gated community, and the gated community is barriered by way of physical barriers, by way of political, and by way of educational and economic barriers. And the problem for us is that 95% of the world's chiropractic colleges exist within that gated community. In other words, 86% of the world's population that sits outside this gated community for one reason or another has no access to it. We can shout from the top of the tallest hills, but while ever we're doing that from within our gated community without the ability to go out there and share chiropractic with the other 86%, whilst ever we're comfortable and unwilling to step out, put our money where our mouth is, and start to provide chiropractic education and care in a cost-effective format, the world is going to miss out. That what you started this class, this conversation with, that quote from BJ, starts, time always has and always will perpetuate those methods that better serve mankind, and that chiropractic is no exception. We have in our possession a sacred trust. We shouldn't just guard it well. We have to develop it. And I'm not saying walking away from the fundamentals. We need to take it to the masses. And at the moment, we're just not doing that. I think, one of the inspiring things for me about BCC is we've made a significant step into doing that. And one of the best things I think that we ever did, arrogant, I must say, given how expensive it is and difficult it is to do, is to start the world's first bilingual College of Chiropractic. We have 2 official languages, Spanish and English, and the majority of our graduates, upon graduating, are able to work in either a dominantly Spanish or English-speaking part of the world. And with Spanish being the 4th most common spoke language in the world and English the 1st, it means that our graduates can go out to many places outside that gated Western community and start to share that message.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure a lot of people that follow the Chiro Hustle podcast have never heard a message like this about global chiropractic. So I thought it was very important for us to bring you with your voice of understanding the global impact of chiropractic onto our show to share some of this information with people and your perspective, looking through your optics of how we can make a better future based on what's been created today. And I do think it's really a value add creating bilingual practitioners. Over here in the States, I hear so many times that Spanish speaking patients are amazing. They understand it. They're great referral sources. They want their whole families to get adjusted after one person gets it. Over here, like in America, like the typical American mindset, they're like, why would I want that? And they come in, they're like, well, how soon do I get to leave? And the Hispanic culture, they want to stay under care as long as they can because they understand the value of a healthy body for the rest of their lives. And they don't want more pharmacological approaches. They want less of that into their families. So they're like, what can we do to stay vital from, being able to work and be providers and have healthy children? That's the most important thing to that culture. And I think that if people just understood that and resonated with that, they would all choose chiropractic first.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think, there are a couple of things that are certainly driving in our favor. Again, I think that we're very late to the stage here in this unfolding theatrical, metaphorical experience of Western society. I think, there's a lot that stands in the way of chiropractic being available and being the loud voice, the first and foremost opportunity in the healthcare encounter for people. But I think that a lot of what is opportune is people seeing and waking up to the negativity of attempting to deal with their health retrospectively, reactively, as opposed to taking a more proactive, a more adaptive approach. And I think people are gradually waking up to that. It's certainly, you mentioned the Spanish speakers. The same is true of many Asian cultures. I think that there's an appreciation for the long term. Already, some of their traditional approaches speak to health from within. This idea that we have of above, down, inside out, our idea of a safety pin cycle, our idea of health coming from within and it being coordinated and regulated by this incredible inborn innate intelligence is something that I think resonates with other cultures when they hear it. But again, if we're locked in only our Western gated community, which is made up of only 14% of the population, we're yelling and screaming amongst ourselves, and that larger part of the world that so needs our message and so needs the amazing fundamentals to who and what we are as chiropractors and the incredible care that's offered by chiropractors today, I think is, it's a travesty, and we really need to get better at stepping out of our comfort zone and taking our message to the world.
Well, I know based on your history also, you practiced in 5 different countries. I was talking to you off camera about, like, most chiropractors, they finish up their collegiate degree and they go anchor into one community and they never leave. Tell us a little bit of the journey. How was it to practice in 5 different countries?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I was trained in Australia, grew up, lived in Australia, I think until I was about 32. I left Australia with the intention of coming overseas, going to Europe and traveling for 3 months, and I'm still here 40 years later. So, it's been a long trip for me. I've had the opportunity to learn so much and experience so much of what's out in the world. And I have to say that upon graduating from my college and then practicing for 4 or 5 years in Australia, I was, I think, very naive about I was insecure, I was naive, and I really didn't see the big picture in chiropractic. I had every opportunity to have that bigger picture, but I think my education, again, disempowered me. It had me focused on a very small picture. It had me thinking about who and what I was from the point of view of almost a medical specialist, if you like, in terms of the modeling I'd been taught. I guess I was taught chiropractic almost from a therapeutic condition-specific modeling. And I think, that's something that we share with our students. We empower them to operate in a modern healthcare system, but not at the expense of understanding the bigger picture about connecting man the spiritual, man the physical, about the opportunity that we have to be a very, very important voice for communities, the communities we have the honor and the privilege of serving. And again, we need to get very, very good at standing up and being able to advocate for this very, very unique but special paradigm that we've been blessed to have. Within our program of study, it's very strongly tailored towards ensuring that our graduates from the first year develop personally. We started the college with the belief, with the understanding that you could not fulfill your potential as a chiropractor without first and foremost realizing and starting to develop your potential as a human being. And so learning how to communicate well, having the confidence and the ability to say no or to challenge people and to do it in a way that doesn't lead to more separation and division, that does it respectfully, using things like the Socratic method, using your ability to build bridges as opposed to knock up fences and offend people, I think is a real life skill, but it also is a fundamental that predicates and is essential towards chiropractors becoming all that they can be in terms of being zeitgeists and people who are able to go out and move communities of people outside their office. It's important what we do in our offices, but there's never been a more important time for us to step out the front door and get uncomfortable and get in front of large groups of people and start to influence healthcare policy, start to be a voice for local communities about what they need in order to be truly well, in order for them and their children to truly develop their potential as a human being.
Well, I think there's so much there that you mentioned and so much to understand from how you run the program in Barcelona and how it was founded. And you still true to the baseline of when it was founded to where we are today, which I think is incredible within an educational institution. And I think that that's really important for people to know, that when they're sending their students to Barcelona to become chiropractors, that they're getting a real education in chiropractic. And I think that as I've come to terms with this profession after being a part of it for 15 years, people have told me that when they're looking to get a new hire or an associate or sell their practice to somebody, the problem is that most of the new hires or new graduates don't have great adjusting skills, and they come out ill prepared. And there's a disconnect between what they believe chiropractic to be from the old front, which are the hiring doctors, saying, you don't understand philosophy, you don't understand how to adjust. How can I give you a job? So then they have to rehab this new graduate with a massive debt load and say, we're going to turn you into a chiropractor, and we have to rehab you into an adjuster and understand philosophy, and then we'll turn you loose on our patients.
Yeah, I think that colleges are really letting the side down. I think the college is pushing towards the profession becoming something that it wasn't traditionally, instead of carving out a model and carving out a level of expertise that's consistent, congruent with where our fundamental philosophical constructs traditionally and today drive us. I think the colleges, really have a responsibility to take a close look at themselves. And I'm not excluding ourselves at BCC with that. There's much that we can still need to improve, but it doesn't serve, I don't think it serves the profession. Our forefathers who developed and did the hard yards in terms of developing legislation in many parts of the world, I don't think we're doing today's society and the needs of the public and patients a service by just replicating those services that already are out there, where much of what happens in primary contact today is drugs and referral and to more invasive or more expensive advanced imaging technologies. I think we have a real opportunity, and we need to work hard to be at the forefront of the healthcare field today, and that where we really need to knuckle down and do some work at the front end of things. Giving up and rolling over, practicing and graduating people who are unemployable is another dimension to that. Employability features very, very highly on our agenda in terms of our curriculum. When we look at an ideal graduate, when we look at our graduate competencies, we're looking at what the field is doing and ensuring that those we graduate are very, very competent, very, very safe, and very, very competent in terms of what's already deemed to be the scope, the practice of chiropractic out in the field. We're very lucky here in Spain. I think we have a very good community. We have about 450 chiropractors now, all umbrellaed by just one national association. And so, having one association means that you've got to be accepting of a degree of heterogeneity. If you're not, then you're going to end up with multiple associations like we see in other jurisdictions. But at the same time, I think for the colleges, we have a clear remit. We're very, very committed to our image of an ideal graduate. And I think that aligns nicely with the employment opportunities that exist out there today, here and overseas. We've got to take into account what's happening overseas, because at the moment, even though we only have 180 students spread across our 5-year full-time program, amongst those 180 students, we have students from 29 different countries. So in terms of the culture and the diversity the richness of the learning environment that students come into, they have the opportunity to come into something that's an incredibly rich learning environment with so many different languages and cultures and religions. It also comes with its challenges, of course, as well. And so we need to be very, very clear about what chiropractic is, and we need to be very, very respectful of all those other cultures, languages, and religions that are now umbrellaed and housed within our small but rapidly growing college.
So I guess this is a trigger question for me based on what you just shared is, how does somebody from the United States come to Barcelona and graduate with the degree from the college there and come back to the United States and practice?
That's a great question. Yeah. So we've got, I guess just of about a month ago, we've had someone who completed that whole cycle. I guess we've had about half a dozen people who are either at the college now or who have already graduated from the US. It's not a market that we pushed into because we find it challenging for people from the US to come across and live in an environment that's very, very different like this. If you've grown up and lived your whole life in the US, depending on which part of the US you've been in, I think that there are challenges that come with coming here. Those people that have done that, I think, have really thrived. We just had one of our students, from the US, who went through and did national boards. So there's no problem with our graduates doing national boards. We're fully accredited with the European Council on Chiropractic Education, which has reciprocity with the Australasian, with the Canadian, with the US national boards. And so they can go without any trouble across and do national boards once they graduate from our college. The challenge then is at the state level, because different states have different laws. And some states in the US say you need to have graduated from a CCE accredited college. Others say CCE or equivalent. So someone who's interested in coming and studying with us from the US, they need to apply with us. Part of that application process is an interview with me. And during that interview, we talk about where you're applying from and where you're thinking of going once you graduate. I then go to the state registration boards in the United States and get an update on what the status is for overseas graduates from accredited chiropractic colleges to return to one of those states. The person who's just now registered as a chiropractor in the US who graduated from the B.C.C. is in North Carolina. And so she went through, passed all national boards on first attempt, took her results to North Carolina's State Chiropractic Registration Board, and then fulfilled their requirements and is now registered as a chiropractor in North Carolina.
Well, I'm extremely excited for the future of working with you and helping support the Barcelona College of Chiropractic. I think that we have no limitations on what we can do together. And I just want to thank you so much for being a part of the Chiro Hustle podcast family. Your episode 646. I know there's probably many more topics we could have talked about today and a lot more information we can share. Maybe you'll agree to coming back on for a future interview.
For sure. Love to, James. Love to. I should just mention just really quickly, if I can, we mentioned it, but we didn't get to it, is the costing. For each year at the Barcelona College of Chiropractic, it's a 5-year program. It's 12,350 euros. If you look at the exchange rate between here and the US, you'll see that is much, much less than graduating out of the US. Even if we're 5 years and you only did the program in 4 years there, you'd be a long way different in terms of financial situation if you were to go through and do the program with us.
Well, that's brilliant. So you said it's 12,000 euros a year?
12,350. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is between the euro and the US. If it was even a little unfavorable, that might mean 13 or 14,000 US dollars per year for 5 years.
5-year program. And if people wanted to check you out and apply to coming there, where should we send them to?
They can go to our website. We have a website that's available both in English and in Spanish. They just need to go to the webpage. It's bcchiropractic.es, www.bcchiropractic.es.
Dr. Adrian Wenban, thank you for being on with our show. If you want to check out Barcelona College of Chiropractic, it's bcchiropractic.es.
Perfect.
And you can check that out in both Spanish facing and English facing on the website. Thank you so much for being on with us today. I learned a great deal today. I'm sure that our viewers learned a massive amount about international chiropractic today. And let's keep charging forward and doing our best to support this beautiful profession together.
Thank you. Thanks for all that you're doing, James. Very, very important. Thanks so much.
Yes. And I'll close out by telling everybody you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next interview. And Dr. Adrian, have a great night over there in Barcelona.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye now.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.